Ngizothanda ukukhuluma kakhulu ngendaba yezigqila. Baningi abantu abathunjwa bayoba izigqila phesheya ngalezo sikhathi abantu benenhlonso yokuthola i-cheap labor. Umuntu asetshenzele mahala nje angaholelanga umuntu lutho. Engibona ukuthi kwakuyiyo inhlonso nenjongo enkulu yokuthi kube nezigqila. Kambe ukugqila bona kuyinto eyayivunyelwe yini masingahlolisa kahle? Ithi iverse ka-Exodus 21 verse 16, whoever steals a man and sells him, anyone found in possession of him shall be put to death. Mangilalela kahle lento ngalombhalo lona ka-Exodus 21 verse 16, uNkulunkulu bengavumanga ukuthi kube nezigqila ngoba ungantshontsha umuntu noma umfowenu uyomthengisa kwawena mawubanjiwe kumele ubulawe. Kwakuyimthetho yaleso sikhathi. Kodwa bese ngibuya futhi ngimangale ngoba uyawuthola nalo iBhayibheli selibuya lisho kunye ngapha kwenye verse uthole selisisho okunye. Deuteronomy 24 ku verse 7 lapha yana bese sizoyithola futhi nayo phela seyikhuluma ngokunye. Ithi if a man is found stealing one of his brothers of the people of Israel, and if he treats him as a slave or sells him, then that thief shall die. So you shall purge the evil from your midst. Ukuze ususwe injulo nensika yobudeveli. Lo muntu kumele afe. Isho njalo. Lama verse amabili asavumelana. Kodwa ubuka phezulu futhi masingabuka iverse lika Exodus ngo-21:20 kusiya ku-21, libeke imithetho yokugcinwa kwezigqila. Kanti sezibuye zavunyelwa yini? Ngezinye zezinto engizofuna sithi ukuzibukisisa sikhuluma ngazo ukuze sibe nokuqonda ngezinto eziningi eziseBhayibhelini ezivumelanayo neziphikisanayo. Inhlonso ingasiyo leyo. Inhlonso ikubumba nokubona ezinye zezinto ezazivunyelwe ngalezo sikhathi ezazingahambisani nempilo yanamhlanje yethu yama-human rights. Sibuka ubungcono banamhlanje nobungcono baleso sikhathi. The changing for better and the changing for worse in our times of living from era to era. When a man strikes his slave, male or female, with a rod and the slave dies under his hand, he shall be avenged. But if the slave survives a day or two, he is not to be avenged, for the slave is his money. Damn. No wonder why the world is like this today. The slavery still carries on, if you analyze it well, in different sectors of living and department of life, as I've stated earlier on, that life has department. Here I hear God through this verse, Exodus 21, verse 20 to 21. Having drafted the laws of slavery, if a man strikes a slave and the slave dies, he must be avenged. If the slave lives a day or two after he has been harmed, the man will not be avenged, for the slave is his money. In some other cases, I come to wonder, these people who were editing and writing the Bible, was it from God himself, or it was designated by those men to cover or back up their slave trade and the slave systems? We are going to open some conversation on these ones to get people to say their own point of views and opinions. That you can be somebody's money, a humanoid, can he be purchased? And then we found this verse. It's Leviticus 25, verse 44 to 46. It reads as for your male and female slaves whom you may have, you may buy male and female slaves from among the nations that are around you. Remember, I'm reading a Bible. This is a verse that allows, that permits whosoever had money to go buy slaves nearby, in other nations and elsewhere. You may also buy from among the strangers who sojourn with you, and their clans that are with you, who have been born in your land, and they may be your property. I would love to know what have happened to these verses. Since they are still in the Bible, do they still apply? Because when you look at the world today, slavery still exists, but it has been polished. People, they make it not look like slavery. They make you look free. But in most cases, people are enslaved by other people who want to fulfill their agendas in different areas of life and the living. You can't be somebody's property. You may bequeath them to your sons after you, to inherit as a possession forever. The slave that you have or had, when you pass on, your sons take over. They make them slaves. They continue having them as those slaves. If his master gives him a wife and he bears him sons or daughters, the wife and her children shall be her masters, and he shall go out alone. But if the slave plainly says, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go out free, it means then the master has to compensate the slave, and it has to be negotiable. So here we are seeing in the Bible the laws of slaves, how to keep them. How does God justify slavery? We saw heroes, Martin Luther King and a lot, fighting slavery. United States was in slavery. The black Americans we see there, they didn't go there visiting, and they applied for permits to live there or permanent residence and citizenships. They were slaves, they were captured, and they were taken there. But what really terrorized my mind is that during slavery, many people who had many slaves were people in Christianity. The elders, the leaders, the masters were Christians in their different denominations. So this really makes me wonder how God ran us. Is he racist? Does he choose his people over his other people? But that is not for me to answer. I don't think anybody has that questions, but I only think people wrote some certain Bible passages just to suit their situations or to fulfill their own agendas. When you buy a Hebrew slave, he shall serve 6 years, and in the 7th he shall go out free for nothing. So if you look Hebrews could be made slaves as well, but he had to stay less years than any other person whom they called the Gentiles. So still it went soft on those people. Come now to my query that it really terrorized my mind to read in the Bible that in order for one to be a true child of God, you have to be an Israelite. What about the other people? Whose people are those people? So in the Empire Kokovola, we look at verses, we try to actually correct some of the other things that doesn't suit the current human living setups and understanding. Let all who under a yoke as bond servants regard their own masters as worthy of all honor, so that the name of God and the teaching may not be reviled. God is our God Almighty. He masters everything. He rules everything. He is the creator. Yes, there have to be other people in higher positions that guide us in our systems in relationship with God. Yes, we agree to that. But there are some other verses that will make those who are bond servants, as it is stated here, sound like they are the property, as it stated earlier on that the slaves are the properties of the slave owners, whereby even if the slave owner have passed on, and then the sons and the family of the slave master, they have to inherit. When you go out to a war against your enemies, and the Lord your God gives them into your hand, and you take them captive, and you see among the captives a beautiful woman, and you desire to take her to be your wife, and you bring her home to your house, she shall shave her head and pare her nails, and she shall take all the clothes off in which she was captured, and shall remain in your house, and lament her father and her mother a full month. After that you may go in to her and be her husband, and she shall be your wife. But if you no longer delight in her, you shall let her go where she wants. But you shall not sell her for money, nor shall you treat her as a slave, since you have humiliated her. All these things were allowed, but they would be justified a bit. We are going to look deep into those ones and see how can we justify these things. How can we bring them into a modern human living? And I'm telling you, there are a lot of verses that people do not actually preach in the church, the pastors. For they are hard to explain, they are hard to make people understand when you are comparing those older times and our modern times of living. Some of them, when you look at them deeply, there are iniquities themselves. They are bad. They make our human living ugly. They promote bad stuff that humiliates people's lives. We are going to look deep into verses of the Bible under a lot of different topics as we go. The Empire Kokovola. I thank you.